Will the pending 2.6 billion rand shortfall be enough to fund the 0% fee increase for 2016? What is likely to happen with the payment of university fees from 2017 and beyond? Is it economically sustainable to have free higher education for all? And how would the non-payment of fees impact the running of universities in the long term? What time is it? It's question time. Welcome to Question Time. My name is Mpho Tsedu. The much anticipated announcement by Higher Education and Training Minister Blade Nzimande on how to fund the 2.6 billion shortfall for the 0% 2016 fee increase has been postponed. Meanwhile, University of the Free State Vice-Chancellor Professor Jansen, that is Jansen, says, and I quote, "Following the historic victory of students driving the hashtag FEESMUSTFALL movement, the after-party headache is this. How will we pay for all this?" Close quote. This is a live program, and therefore you can call us. The number to dial is 089-110-4210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. My guest today, Israel Mkhize. He's a resident political economist. And on the line, we have Sdumo Dlamini, who is the president of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU. But before we continue, let's take a look at this clip.
Government's policy is free higher education for the poor. It's not for everyone. Those who are calling for everyone, we can't afford that as a country, and wealthy students must pay. Because also they have got an economic advantage.
That is Minister Blade Nzimande. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
That is, let me welcome you to Question Time. And perhaps let me start with you. When I saw you at the march, that is the student march, where the Secretary General of the African National Congress was going to receive the memorandum. When it was read out, there was a point which you agreed with so much that you were seen nodding. Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember very well, Mpho.
Let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah, look, firstly, thank you for having me, and good evening to Israel and yourself and the viewers. You are correct. We should first congratulate indeed the students from our universities who highlighted the issues as they have highlighted, or reminded all of us that these are the issues we needed to look at as a matter of urgency. The students, when they came at Lutuli House, whilst we were meeting there to look into their issues, and remember that march was not rather illegal,
yes,
but we felt that we should not ignore the students. Let's go and listen to them. And indeed, they presented a very short, precise memorandum,
yes,
which was highlighting a few critical issues, amongst those that there should be no fees increase. That also they demanded free education, free quality education. But they were also, which is where and why I was nodding, they were raising the issues of their parents, the workers at the universities, issues of casualization, issues of outsourcing. And indeed they made and drove those points home very, very clearly. So the issues they've raised, they are now in the map of our country, and we must continue to remember them as we still remember the 1976 uprisings of the students in our country. We must respond as a nation. We must not look into an angle that says, how are we not going to implement what the students are saying? The debate should be, what are we going to do to ensure that we can indeed come closer to the issues they raise? But remember, there are elements of free education in our country already.
Yes.
More than 60% of basic education is in no-fees schools where children literally don't pay a thing. The PhD and research at the university is subsidized by government. And there's NSFAS, which is not enough. So we're debating something that's already on the table, but the students have pushed the point further to push responsibility also to the universities, who hide behind their autonomy and interfere or rather prevent government from pushing forward this debate, and also from the rich in our country who are not responding positively.
Now, UCT is warm towards the cancelling this casualization, as you call it, and contract workers and all that. But other universities aren't. What is COSATU's point then?
Exactly, and we must commend the union negotiators in the Western Cape. UCT has taken a decision to insource those services that were outsourced, which is what we are encouraging our unions then, how in particular, to push home this point and separate now, because we're expecting the students to be continuing with their classes. Yes. Separate that now from the strike that was happening, but push for the demands of the workers for insourcing of those outsourced services and ensure that those who have been casualized are permanently employed by the university.
Now, is it COSATU's view that free higher education is possible in South Africa today?
It is COSATU's view, but remember, we are clear in our mind on the responsibility of those who can afford to pay. They must pay. The rich must pay. But those poor families who have their children at the universities, they should be afforded an opportunity to learn and be 100% paid for by government. We're saying, so, and the private sector should come to the party. So COSATU believes very strongly that the points that have been raised are very, very valid points.
Okay, hold it there, I mean, yes, let's look at what do you think is going to happen. The 2.6 billion amount has been
put on the table.
Yeah, let's
contextualize it and say you had the UNESCO conversation in 2006 looking at the question of education globally, the Abuja conversation which focuses in Africa and Sub-Sahara, and you also have the Dakar conversation on the education. You've got the NDP making pronouncements on education question, and also the Vision 2060 making pronouncements on the education imperatives within Africa. So on one hand, you've got the imperative side, what is the demanded and what is expected. But on your right hand, because this is a macroeconomic conversation around education itself, on the right hand, you then have IMF looking at Sub-Sahara and its economic potential, which will address if the Treasury will have on its budget some of these reserves to do the necessary imperatives. Then you also have, the minister cutting the projection of the GDP, from above 2% to less than 1.5. So all of this happened when he was delivering his midterm budget speech, where he was explaining constraints within the economy, because in search for this free education, so to speak, the question of the money must be addressed. So now 2.something billion is on the table. As I said, it's a macroeconomic conversation. Macroeconomic, it's a game of speculation. You can put something, for instance, a figure somewhere there, but then look that within policy, within institutions, how can you make budgets to talk to each other? But it is not as easy as that. For instance, we are hearing pronouncements on some tax options, to invite back the corporate sector, because it is the one that ends up consuming the services of the graduates. Yes. So there is a very large conversation going on that as we've had Mr. Nkwanyana touching it. And also, you've got the question of looking at BEE. How can the scorecards of BEE be adjusted such that your absorption of funding of the higher learning institutions will give you some scorecards? Because at the end of the day, it is these private sector companies that would consume some of these skills. So you would, in a macroeconomic sense, you could put forward a projection and say X amount should be the expected budget. But then you're going to have to go back to look at the practicalities as where is the rands and cents really going to come from.
I want us to take a break, but whilst we are taking a break, Mr. Dlamini, I want you to just ponder on this point that I know that the workers' struggles have always been fought on the basis of solidarity. And in this instance, the workers are in solidarity with students who, some of them are supposed to sit for their examinations. And they are saying, look, we were with you on the fees must fall. And can you not still be with us on this other points which we had raised? But we'll talk about that just after the break. This question time, the numbers to dial 0891104210.
SABC brings to you Rugby World Cup 2015.
Let's do this. As Africans, we tell a common story. Together, we make up a common picture. For the 7th time since 1998, AfriCities Summit is uniting people from local governments across the continent and asking them to contribute in voice and action to shape a common vision of transformed African cities by 2063. Join us. Learn about the AfriCities 7 Summit, Johannesburg, South Africa, 29 November to 3 December 2015.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest, Israel Mkhize, is our resident political economist. And on the lines, Nzimande Dlamini is the president of COSATU. Tony, you are in Garangua. Welcome.
Hello, Mpo.
Yes, good day.
Yes, Mpo, you know what I want to know? ANC, they say they have the policy of free education and they've been having it like maybe from the Freedom Charter.
Yes.
Now, how were they going to implement it? If all this time they had it and right now when they have to implement it, now they start to struggle on where and how. You know, that is the part that I don't understand. Maybe Mr. Israel there maybe can answer. The other part of the workers who are striking at that, my understanding is that workers' rights are as much as important as education rights.
Yes.
So this one is a difficult one because of the students must write. They must write. But at the same time, workers feel as if the students now, they feel they have achieved their 0% increase. Now they are, abandoning them. Yes, abandoning them. But still, we must understand that workers' rights are as much as important as education rights.
Thank you very much, Tony. Babjamin.
Yes, perhaps let me start by the first question is raising, then I'll quickly come to your question. The issue of free education, actually in the Freedom Charter, it continues to say for those who qualify, those who are poor who qualify for this free education. But in 2007, the conference of the ANC took this point further, and indeed some of its elements are being implemented. We've talked about the strengthening of NSFAS, which is not enough. I've spoken about over 83% of basic education, which is free, really, because of the non-fees schools. Then something at the university. The issue here, as Israel has put it, becomes a macroeconomic issue, because you have to have money to fund free education. Literally saying there's no free education because somebody must fund that from the fiscal.
Correct.
So we have to talk about the pace That is the issue here. Were we fast enough or have we delayed too much? That's the point the students have raised in our country. But quickly on the workers and the students, he has also put that point very, very well. Those struggles are both important, but I think as parents, whilst we appreciate that the students stood with us and allowed us as workers to raise our issues, and already in some areas they are being resolved, but we also appreciate that these students also have to meet their deadlines in terms of exams so that they pass and become workers that will struggle with us continuously on a number of issues.
Okay.
But also, lastly, these issues are not going to be resolved as soon as we could think at the universities. They will both still need each other through protests, through demonstrations and negotiations, taking through the issues of the workers. How we used to do it many years ago, we've always not separated these struggles. They've always been standing together.
Okay.
And I think that's going to be the way forward here.
Nkanyiso, you're in Kimberley.
Good day, Mpoi.
I'm well. Thanks very much for the call.
I'm good. You know, when the students were on about the FEESMUSTFALL,
Yes.
the workers' issues were part of it. And when it was done, everything, and then the issue was not addressed in terms of the outsourcing and everything.
Yes.
And it is a time where I believe the students must rise. But the notion to say that the workers are forcing the students, because remember, like yesterday when TMB, I don't remember the time the president was saying yesterday, when they clarified the issue that no, they are divided in the issue, but no one is forcing anyone. It is a concern from the students to say they must do so in solidarity, because they feel that them abandoning the strike of the workers would actually mean that they are supporting the concerns that are happening in the same university. So for them, it feels like they cannot be in an institution that is doing what they are not supporting.
Okay, thank you very much, Nkanyiso. I was battling to hear you there. But perhaps, Kabazan, would it be economically viable to tap into higher institutions' reserves to fund this, I don't know whether, non-increment or free education?
Look, there are three conversations going on as if they are one. The first conversation is the official government conversation, which the Honourable Minister has been expressing. Then I want to come to the most rather delicate but core of it, which is the student conversation. The first conversation is saying no increment next year.
Right.
The second conversation is free education in our lifetime.
Okay.
Now, you have those common interests starting from next year, but the goalposts are not the same. The other goalpost tends to stand next year at the registration, no fee increment.
Okay.
Now, that can be doable for 2016. Although, as we heard, the Reserve Bank governor was waiting to hear the hikes by the Federal Reserve so that he sees how that affects the market here and the whole currency exchange and we're not looking for capital flight, because also if we tax the so-called rich people that much, we also run capital flight. But on the other hand, the no fee in our lifetime, free education in our lifetime, it's a very ideologically embedded conversation.
Yes.
It's taken from your Paulo Freire, the banking, we are tired of the banking of knowledge depositing. It's taken from the Freedom Charter. It's taken from, as Mr. Lamin was saying, from the Mangaung resolutions. So the question is, how do you synchronize the student conversation, the no hikes next year, and also free education? Because the people who were looking for no rate, that the interest shouldn't be, the fees must not be raised next year, we would probably their vision, their short-term vision, was the question of next year. But the no fees at all in our lifetime, it's another story. There have been models that have been looked at. I mean, you look at German. Americans are laughing at the Germans who have implemented the no fees in our lifetime. You've got the question of students who, unfortunately, most of us have been to tertiary. We go through loans, maybe from the working class, and then what happens, you get 30 years of having to repay the loan. In America, you have 1.2 a trillion that is serviced by over 40,000 population of Americans. Now you've got this new free education in Germany, but even there, it did not become a resolution of a movement like we have seen.
Okay.
It's been something that's been toyed with over the years.
Mbulelo, you are around Gauteng. Welcome.
Hi, Chief. How are you?
I'm well.
Okay. Chief, just a quick question, man. It looks like government has not really looked at itself, the way government is wasting money. Because for me to quickly and ask money from private sector, you basically ignoring the problem which government is sitting with, which is overspending. Government is financing something called tender system,
yes,
which is taking a lot of percentage from the government expenditure. But however, government doesn't need to look at that first. Government needs to sweep his house first before he asks money from private sector. Because there are lots of wastage that is in government that can able to make this money available for the free education in our lifetime. Therefore, for me, my view is possible. But why government does not want to sweep his house first? MPs are getting free houses, free right, while they're getting millions of rent per year. Therefore, there are lots of wastage. All the spheres of government, there are lots of wastage that is happening there. But until they sweep that floor and able to make sure that all the spending is efficient, then there'll be available money. But what is Mr. Mkiza's view on this? Okay, thanks, sir.
All right, thank you. Well, a direct one.
Well, as we said, it's a macroeconomics conversation. And we are also looking at the different classes within the students themselves. One of the views has said that those who can afford may pay maybe 150,000, for instance. Those who are in the middle working class, 50,000. Those who are on the lower working class could pay around 10,000 rands. But now to bring in the private sector, you need to be very careful again, because it's like, Mr. Dlamini can explain this better, but it's like when you are pushing for an increase in wages, for instance, the employer on the other side, whose sole purpose is to make profit, whose interest in investing and showing solidarity and affirmative action may also have undertones of getting your skills so that you can get the best profit. So you may find that the private sector may then say, if there is now money which is sporadically moving out into the fiscus of the higher education, then you find that there is even more blockage on the absorption of new labor, because they'll be saying, where do we get the money to pay this new labor, because this money is now going to... So it's something that needs to be thought through very carefully as to how we include the private sector.
But I mean, perhaps a question which I think is ideal for a workerist like yourself. Why is education so expensive in South Africa?
Indeed, it has been made a commodity in many areas. But South Africa as a government has tried that much to deal with that particular problem. I will still say, Comrade Israel, we all have a responsibility on the education of our child. The private sector not excluded. Because they have a responsibility, they benefit from this, they must fund this. Government has got to fund the education of the child. Parents too are doing those who can afford. I can tell you, my third child now is the last one at the university. I've taken through most of the expensive universities like UKZN in South Africa. Can't government think, or anybody think that can we subsidize this parent who has contributed so much in the education, in the building of our nation through this education? So the point here is, this is a national responsibility. Remember, the highest allocation in the fiscus or budget of our country is in education. That's the apex. That's the highest. And you cannot therefore say, and I'm not referring to Israel, we cannot therefore say government has done nothing about the issue.
Okay,
it is not enough. That's the reality.
I mean, unfortunately, we've run out of time. Kabazela, thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guest and to you for watching the show. From me and the crew, have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.
Good morning.